Hey, Miss Boyd. Good evening, everyone. I can't hear you, Miss Boyd.
Wait a minute.
You muted back. Unmute yourself. Hold on. Hold on. Unmute yourself.
Okay, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah. You were talking that whole time?
I'm talking on the phone.
Oh, I thought you were speaking and I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I'm talking on
Gotcha,
the phone.
gotcha.
I'm gonna go back to talking on my phone.
Understood. Okay, got you.
How come I don't hear anything, Paris?
Everything is muted because it's unique. That's the rule.
No. Oh, you mean that you think that they did that so we can't hear anything?
Yes.
All participants are muted when they come into the space.
Hey, Pat, it's Warren. How are you?
Good evening, everyone. We're gonna wait for about another 5 minutes for people to come on.
Please, everyone, please mute your backgrounds.
Yeah, no, no.
I guess we can start. Nolan, you're with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what time do you have?
7:04.
Okay, we'll give 1 more minute. Somebody needs to mute their background. I keep hearing these like "Nying, nying, 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 nying" in the background.
Somebody's parking and they're getting too close.
Okay. Let me know when it's 7:05.
I have 7:05 here.
Okay, so we can start now. Again, good evening, everyone.
Evening.
We have a lot on the agenda today. The rules of order, you know, as we speak, like one at a time. And everybody will get the opportunity to express how they feel or what they're thinking or for or against. And I want to welcome all of my guests and my committee members. So we're going to start with those that don't have the agenda. I'll just start off with old business. We're going to do a follow-up court date that was supposed to happen on 2/3/21 for 40 and 54 Crown Street. Okay, Alicia.
We were supposed to be discussing the sanctions motion. Evelyn, you might want to turn off your mute. Evelyn Collier. Yeah, great, thank you. We were talking about, we had a date to go back to court on the sanctions motion and the contempt of court. But something happened in the court where our judges got changed, and then our judges got changed back. So it was a lot of confusion. It wound up just being a holding date. So there was no hearing and we didn't go. So we're still waiting for those decisions. The other case,
But hold on, do you have a new court date though?
no, I think that right now it's just submitted on whatever. They're going to be making the decisions on the paperwork. I don't think there will be another hearing for that. I think the next time we'll probably be having a hearing will be in front of the second department, because I think the case is probably now completely finished. I believe so. If something else changed, I'll let you guys know. But for now, the case is finished.
Okay.
So we are finally finished with that case. The new case, we will be going back on the 23rd of February to talk about the new case. And we still have some outstanding requests that we gave to the Department of City Planning, including the declaration page that we are expecting to get, as well as other pieces of information. But that case will not be up until the 23rd.
Okay, so when you say the new case, that's with 40 and 54 Crown?
No, that's for the 960. That's the case that we filed the lawsuit, got the temporary restraining order, and as a result, we were able to win the fact that adverse effects will happen to the garden, because before that case was filed, the city was saying that no adverse effects will happen to the garden. But once we filed the lawsuit, and we believed that the lawyers took a look at the Department of City Planning's papers and said, no, guys, you're going to have to say the adverse effects will happen. And as a result, they did. So we won that concession for the community. So now, but we're still going back to the court because there's still documents that we're requesting that has not been given to us, as well as the issue of enforcing the new charter revision, where they have to provide information to the community 30 days before a project is certified. But the project was, as everyone knows, was certified last week.
Great, thanks. Let's see, bill number 2186.
That was supposed to be done by Professor Angadi, but I think Nicholas said that he will not be able to attend until later on. So if you can move him back down
We can, but Esteban, I thought he went to listen to something also around 2186.
No, they haven't had a hearing on it. Like it's been working its way through committee, well, through several committees. But I think it's only now gotten to the point where there's going to be like public hearings on it. So I don't know if anybody has the schedule for that. I can look it up. Could somebody type the bill number in the chat for me?
2186.
2186. All right, thank you. Got it.
Professor Angadi should be here about 7:45, I believe, to do his presentation.
Okay, so we'll hold that off.
Thank you.
We can go right into new business then. 960 Franklin Avenue, rezoning certification update. Okay, so 960 was certified on February the 1st. And so the start date is 10 days after they are certified, which would be February 11th, 2021. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's it. Now, one of the what I wanted to bring forward to the committee is that I think a presentation should be done and in conjunction with a public hearing. And the reason the presentation should be done is so that we can hear and be able to ask questions. Because at the public hearing, you can only come up and say you're for or against, you got a minute or two. But at least if we can do a presentation, you know, we can get some of the questions answered. Now, again, this is to the committee. I would like to do a presentation on February the 24th. I haven't gotten permission yet, but I will follow up if you're okay with that. And I would like to have the public hearing on March the 18th. Again, all of this, I haven't gotten a yay or a nay, but this is what I'm trying to plan ahead. And then have the full board vote on March the 23rd. Because I think we only have up until April to get all of it together. Because when we do the public hearing, there's a lot that we have to do prior to that. You know, we have to make sure all the information is out to the public. We have to post it in the newspaper. So there's a number of things that we definitely have to do. And anyone have anything on the committee? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is Nicola. I have a couple
Nick.
questions.
Mhm.
First of all, have we received all of the documents now that it's certified? I think they have 5 days to send the complete package to us. I know I saw a posting on, I think it was the 2nd, that gave access to that, a share drive. Is that share drive supposed to be complete? Because I noticed that at least one document is missing from it, which is a key document. The restrictive declaration document wasn't there. And I think that's the main document that they are legally bound to adhere to, no matter what's in the application, et cetera. They have to abide by what's in that restrictive document. And the draft versions we saw were, you know, half blank. So that's a document I think we need, and I didn't see it in the packet.
Hey, Nicola, it's Mia. Nicola, it's Mia. That was the latest link that we received to DCP, advising that those were the final docs. But I will circle back to DCP and note the missing document and request it and forward it to committee once I receive it.
Great. And then the second item I have is a broader question, and it really ties back to the fact that we are in this COVID situation and we're, you know, having to rely on Zoom meetings and technology to conduct these hearings. The concern I've heard in other communities, and I definitely know that it's a concern for our community, is that we have a large number of constituents that don't have ready access to the technology required. Even in my block association, many of my seniors, you know, don't know how to use Zoom, aren't familiar, are afraid of it. They don't even want to dial in. And I know that they will have questions and concerns. I mean, this is a significant change in our community. And so I think we need to push back on city council or DCP to provide, what are they going to do to make sure that our community across the board has the access that they would need to actively participate in this type of a hearing?
I don't have the answer to that, but
I think we need to push back and ask for that. Like, what do they plan on doing? Because if they're pushing this through, knowing that we cannot have face-to-face meetings right now, how they're disenfranchising a large number of our population, and the people that need the affordable housing are at risk of being displaced with this kind of large-scale development. And we want to make sure that their voices can be heard, right?
Fred, do you have an answer for that? Fred?
I don't know if I have an answer, but I definitely want to give a couple of comments with regards to some of the questions. Well, first of all, I want to apologize in advance. I probably will not be able to stay on for the entirety of the meeting, but I do want to thank the chair for giving me a couple of minutes to address the committee and the community. So definitely to the question with regards to that, I think that's something that's come up in other committees as well, with regards to access, how we're going to be able to do that. So I've had a couple of conversations with some of the chairs, including Ms. Moses for ULURP, part of what I'm trying to do is have a meeting with the chairs in terms of for ULURP, along with environmental protection, along with parks recreation, along with housing, in terms of, I think there are a number of points that we want to make sure we're touching on. So the purpose of our meeting is going to be with regards to coordination and communications, as well as figuring out some of the logistics in terms of what else needs to be done. So definitely with regards to if there are still documents that are missing, I'm asking for all the committees to identify those. So that way we can be, we can get on top of those to make any requests that we need to in terms of the documents, information that the committees are going to need. The ULURP chair has already, signaled that she is definitely looking towards having a presentation from the applicants themselves, which I think is going to be critical because they need to come and speak themselves in terms of what they're proposing, and if there are any questions, in terms of giving us the information that we're going to need. From there, we can also have that additional follow-up in terms of there's gaps in the information that we need to make those decisions. With regards to the outreach, absolutely, I think we do share that concern in terms of definitely because we're working in a COVID environment. Normally, it would have been a matter we would have just gotten the auditorium or we would have gotten a significant space in terms of being able to make sure that there was room for everyone. We're going to have to examine that in terms of what tools we have at our disposal. I'll say up front, I'm loath to say, let's get everybody into an auditorium, especially given the current state of the pandemic. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we do want to discuss what options do we have as a community, and as well in terms of if there's any assistance that we can be given by the city or any of the any other relevant agencies as well. So there are still some pieces that we're definitely working on.
Right, like to me, can't we push back? I mean, they're forcing this on us. They know the situation that we're dealing with right now. And if they want these virtual meetings to take place, they need to create a scenario, come up with solutions so that everyone can be represented. That's why we have other communities that have filed lawsuits against them for this, because they know that people are not being represented, are at risk of not being represented correctly. And so to me, DCP needs to take the responsibility. They are the ones setting up this timeline. They're forcing this on us. They need to figure out how is this virtual meeting going to work?
Right, and it's a concern that
we have limited resources, so it can't be on CB9.
Right, and that's the thing. So I mean, we need to discuss the scope of what we're trying to do.
Camera.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
I know what you look like.
Can I make a comment on the?
But absolutely.
Get my camera to work today.
Let me make a comment on the issue of the presentations and the public hearing. So I don't know if everybody had a chance to watch the certification meeting. You should go online and do so. It was I'd never heard anyone on the City Planning Commission talk the way that they talked. It was stunning. They were basically like, we can't believe this is even happening, but okay, let's certify it. Like it was crazy. They made it clear that they did not agree with what was going on. They did not support the project, and that now it was the developers. It was their prerogative to see how they were going to try to sell it to the community. But they were clearly not on board, and that's very weird. But all that said, I think that we've made tremendous efforts over the past 2 years to try to get this developer to the table. And if we're going to allow them the opportunity to present, I think that we need to be very clear about participation and how community members will be able to participate. I also think that if you're going to have a 10 to 15 minute, essentially like propaganda for this development, that there should be an equal amount of time given to the folks in the community that are opposing this, because they will most certainly have prepared a counterpoint to that. And I think that the community should have the entire picture of what's going on. So like I would say if we are going to give them time, that, and remember that we only get a small number of these hearings. They do go on the public record. They do come up later in court cases. The things that you say actually do matter. So if we are going to be giving them, however much time we're giving them, then we, basically I don't think that that MTOP should have to split up, their presentation into 6 different people and like present it that way when we're giving the developer time, give the people that are opposing this project as well time, to make the argument. If we're going to hear all the arguments, then let's hear all the arguments. So.
Well, what are you talking about now? The presentation, or are you speaking about the public hearing? Because a presentation is what people are going to listen to, and they're going to specifically ask questions. I think that when you're talking specifically about the public hearing, then people are going to come up with a whole lot of opposition as to why, either you're for or you're against. And the presentation should be, it should be where the person tells us what's going on. And that's what I really want to hear.
Right. What I'm saying is if we're going to give 10, 15, however many minutes to a developer to make their case, then community members shouldn't be relegated to a 2-minute, 2-minute time frame to make their case. If there's a group of people that want to make their case collectively, then we should have let them the time to do that, as opposed to the piecemeal things. Like it works ultimately, but there's the people that are here, the people that have been engaged in the process. I feel like I said, these things come up later. When you litigate a case later on, they go in and they look at the public comments, and there should be an opportunity to present the entire argument. I imagine that would include even people on the committee that would be making that argument.
That's not why I really wanted the presentation. I wanted the presentation so that the people from the community could ask questions, because I hear what you're saying, but my point is that I feel that the people from the community should also be able to ask them specific questions.
I agree, and I think there's a way to make all of that work out, But I think, again, we have a limited number of these. If we're going to be giving time and ultimately it's taking time away, whether it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever from community members, we have very limited number of times that we get to actually weigh in on this project. And so
well, I don't want like an opposition between this and that. All I'm asking from the committee at this point is to hear what is being said. And then the community people, they have a number of questions. And I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, at the public hearing is where you normally get your opposition from people there, for or against or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But
that's where the argument kind of sways back and forth.
But here's a question. Does the public hearing require that there be a presentation?
Does it require what?
Is that somehow, does it require that there be a presentation, or is that just something that we would be doing, either as a courtesy or just, so we can hear from the developer? Because we've obviously tried to hear from this developer. I guess what I'm saying is we've tried to do it in many unofficial ways. So if we're going to be giving them actual time out of the official public hearing, that's, that to me is it prejudices the committee and the community by making it seem like this is that's the official stance, when I don't think that's actually true.
This is what I and I'm presenting it to the committee. This is what I was proposing. I found
Pat, it's Warren. I think we should refocus on what you're proposing, and the committee should vote on it, acknowledging what Esteban is saying. But in the interim, considering we have 60 days, we need an appropriate timeline, and you've provided that. So I make a motion to accept for the committee members the timeline proposed by the chair.
Well, I want to just have, because someone else might on the committee. What I'm saying, I want to just clear this up with him. Let me just tell you why I wanted to have it at a time where there was nothing else but this to be done, so that everybody would have.
There's a motion on the floor. You have to accept the motion and ask for a second.
Oh, Lord. Can I ask a question just about the format, please?
Not right now. Right now, we have a motion on the floor. Alicia, let us do our business, and then we'll ask you.
Excuse me, Warren.
Mia, could you please mute her for Robert Rules of Order violations?
Why is Warren taking over the chairwoman's?
I just put a motion on the floor.
Let's
Why?
start with that. There is a process, there is a time frame.
No, the process is right now.
About the time frame.
I have nothing to say. All I can tell you is that
Warren,
if
you're
you're
not
going with the meeting
Okay,
going forward,
Alicia had her hand up before you made a motion. She had her hand up before you made a motion.
you're not part
So
of the
why wasn't
committee.
she recognized?
She's asking the committee, not you.
So what? She had her hand up before you made a motion, and she should have
Ladies
been
and
recognized.
gentlemen, the chair would like to speak. Could everyone just mute themselves, please? Thank you.
okay, Warren, I heard what you're saying, and I know that you want to put a motion on the floor. I was just having a discussion around the issue before I put the motion on the floor. I wanted to hear what people were saying. That's it. Now, Warren, I want to hear you. I wanted to hear what was being said before I put the motion on the floor. That's all.
Ms. Moses, you have Ms. Boyd with her hand up and then Tara with her hand up with questions.
Okay.
One of the questions is if you're going to ask the developer to come to the meeting, you know, they tend to come and then we ask them questions and they never have the information that we want. They always say, oh, really? I don't have that. I'll get back to you. Oh, I don't have that. So one of the things we would like, if you don't mind, is we have a list of questions beforehand that we can submit. So the developer can't say that they didn't know that we were going to ask these questions, so that they, for example, how many bedrooms are you going to have for the affordable categories? You know, where are the affordable categories going to be located? You know, do you have the declaration page, and what is in the declaration page? So we can have questions beforehand that we submit to the developer, so they can't say they didn't know, or oh, I don't know, I'll get back to you. I don't know, I'll get back to you. So is that possible that you can get questions from the community prior and then submit it to them, so that when they do come to the hearing, they're prepared? Thank you. So that's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Well, will those questions have names behind them, or it just be questions up there?
I mean, I could submit questions, but I would assume that you would ask the community to submit questions.
That's what I'm saying. Will it have names, like your name, somebody else's name?
I mean, if somebody wants to put their name on a question, that's fine. But if they don't, that's okay too. I don't think that it's a matter of the names. It's the matter of making sure that they have the questions in advance, so that when they come to our community board, they are prepared. And so we know that if we've asked them a question and they haven't come prepared, it's not because they didn't know, it's because they're refusing to give us the information.
I got it.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Who's next? Ms. Barnes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My concern, like yours, is the time frame. It's a very sensitive time frame. This is one of the biggest issues that will ever happen in our community. Having said that, last time and many times we've requested this essential information, I believe, restrictive declaration with all the details. How many apartments, how many bedrooms, what is the square foot? So before the presentation, I would think that we insist that we have that detailed information before the presentation. I would like to also, if there's any city people here that will speak to certainly the virtual, me like Nicola, my seniors in my block association or in my area are very concerned, and they don't have computers, they're not computer savvy, and it's a real strain on them. So one, could we tonight say, let us secure, if there's a person from city planning that could speak to these details. We simply asking how many apartments, what's the affordability, what's the square footage, is it a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and how are we going to handle the virtual aspect to compensate for and include our seniors? And if there's anyone from city planning, could they speak to it before the presentation? Thank you.
Right now, I'm just working on the presentation from the persons at this point. But
before the presentation, could we get them to give us the information, secure that information? Because how are we going to ask the question if we don't have the details?
Madam Chair, could you repeat your timeline? I got March 18th and March 23rd, but there was one before that.
Right now, the presentation date, and again, I haven't confirmed anything. I wanted to have them do the presentation on February the 24th.
Okay.
At 7 p.m. Now, what I can ask them for also is that it has to be some kind of way. I think the materials can be fed through, I'm assuming our community board office, where, you know, when they're speaking, it could actually show up so you could actually see what it is that they're speaking about. I think we could probably work that out. Am I correct, Mayor?
Oh, definitely.
Right, so I can try and get as much material, you know, as possible. Okay, so now before we put the motion on the floor, I think we need to call the roll. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Nolan?
Is this just for general attendance or in terms of the motion?
Well, it's gonna be, I mean, can see everybody.
What's that? Sorry,
Yeah, we need to take attendance so that when Warren puts the motion on the floor, we have a quorum so we can vote on it.
okay.
Okay.
All right, I will call the roll. Let's see. Fred Baptiste. I don't know if he's still here.
Present.
Okay,
Present.
great. Warren Burke. Warren, you here? He was here before. I'll come back to him. Is Aaron Brown here? Nope. Suki Chong,
Here.
Nicola Cox,
Here.
John Craver,
Here.
Esteban Huron,
Here.
Nolan Levinson, I'm here. Patricia Moses,
Yeah.
Thomas,
Here.
and Richard Villabrea Jr. Is Richard here? No. And I'll do another call for Warren. Is he still here or did we lose him?
No.
I don't see him.
I don't see him.
Okay, so
So we have 8 members present.
we have 8. Man, I don't know what happened with Warren. So
We have quorum.
we have a quorum. Okay, great. So I need someone to put the motion on the floor and we can vote on it. That's for the presentation, tentatively, because I didn't get a confirmation yet, for Wednesday, February 24th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Hello? I gotta get a motion there.
So moved.
So the all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
Madam Chair, point of order. There wasn't a
Yep.
second on the motion.
Oh, there was no second?
I didn't hear a second. Could you advise what the second was?
They're muted now.
Can,
Second?
is it possible to make an amendment on the motion? Yes.
Yes.
I would like to amend the motion to include Alicia Boyd's request for information, request for questions submitted by the community to be answered during the presentation as as, yeah, that's my amendment.
Prior to the presentation? Oh,
Yes.
during the presentation.
No, prior to the
Second.
presentation.
Wait a minute, let's get this motion together now. I'm all confused now. Okay, let's try it again.
How about we say that you could pick a date, maybe like the 22nd, which is a Monday, to have questions submitted by noon on Monday, the 22nd. And those questions will be forwarded to the developer to include in their presentation.
But what's the motion?
This is an amendment on the motion.
Amendment on the motion, okay. That the question be submitted on the 22nd, where, to where?
Mia,
They
what
can
would
submit
be
them to the BK09 email.
Okay,
We'll compile them.
right, and so they will be able to have those questions before the 24th. Is that enough time?
It should be. I mean, like most of, if they don't have answers to those questions, even on the spot, I'd be very concerned. But I think these will be some specific questions that we haven't been able to figure out on our own through our own processes here. So, and I think also as part of that, like Ms. Barnes said, I think that the questions could include requests for specific documents to be included in that too. Like I think that can all be part of that.
Okay. So let's get can you read back the motion? Because I'm all confused. Nolan?
Well, I believe Fred has his hand up.
Okay.
From before.
Right. Actually, I was going to recommend, I mean, this is something perhaps only because we want to make sure that they have adequate time to, one, respond to them, and two, I'm assuming they're going to create a deck or something like that. So
Okay.
maybe even if we did it, if that's a Monday, perhaps even if we did it the Friday before, but at least it gives 2 or 3 days where they have the questions and they can properly prepare a deck for the actual presentation.
Yeah, that's good.
That would be
The 19th.
the 19th.
19th.
19th, that sounds good.
Okay. Question, are we giving Mia enough time to compile everything and get a document out to the developer?
I can help Mia if you'd like me to touch base with you on that Friday after they've submitted and we can put it together. Then
Oh, that'd be perfect. Thank you, Esteban.
Yeah, that'll take a little pressure off of you, and we can, yeah, we'll get it out to them by the end of the day.
Alrighty, thank you.
Can we try this motion again? Because we got an amendment now to
So the motion is to have a presentation from the developer on the 24th, and all community members can submit comments that they'd like the developer to answer to the community board by February 19th.
okay. So did we second that motion? Did we?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. You're seconding. Let's move on. What was next?
So we need to vote on it, or
We need to vote on it.
Oh, we didn't vote on it. I thought we
We
voted
need to
on it.
vote on it.
Okay, go ahead, Nolan. Y'all
Okay.
gotta go out now.
All right. Fred, do you vote on these or no?
I don't.
Okay.
We could just,
Or do you want to do a
Unanimous consent?
yeah. So I guess all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Any opposed? Okay. Not tentatively, I have the public hearing date for Thursday, March the 18th at 7 p.m. Again, that's tentatively. So should we vote on that, Fred, or can we just tentatively put it just right now as that day? Because I haven't gotten any confirmation on anything. Should we put it in motion or no?
Do you have another ULURP prior to that?
It's, yeah, in the early part of March, but I was going to
Okay.
table that because I think it would have been March the 9th. But I think that we need to get all of this, at least get it started.
Right.
And
I mean, if you want,
Hmm?
yeah, my suggestion is if you want, you can leave a placeholder with the office for the date and just see how things play out, because I think you'll be able to have a couple of other meetings. You'll probably also have it sounds like you're going to have the presentation by that time, so you'll
Right.
be able to kind of judge what dates you need or if there's any other activities you need. So I think you have a little bit of time. But if you just let Mia know that you want to hold that date, you can at least do that on the calendar. Check
I want to tentatively hold March 18th. I didn't want it to be, and I know people have other concerns. And I understand what you're talking about in terms of the community not being able to come online. But but if we don't plan and then we kind of get pushed into April, and then there's a lot of holidays, it's Easter and all that coming up right at the beginning. So we'll tentatively hold that.
And then also, this is a lot of information to digest. And even someone in the chat mentioned that we may need to have more than one hearing, because I've been involved in this, and I have a hard time understanding everything that's about to hit us, much less someone that's been completely absent from these discussions. I think it's going to take the public time to really digest this and come with their concerns.
This is why I wanted to do the presentation. That will give people almost a month, to kind of digest it and, have other questions that they want to ask about at the public hearing. That's why I wanted to do it in advance. Now, I don't know if this is going to work out, but that's what I would like to do. And then on the 23rd, we can still hold that. No, your board meetings on 23rd. Am I correct, Fred?
Correct.
Okay, so I wanted to do at your full board meeting on March the 23rd. I would have hoped that the full board could take a vote, whether they're for or against, on the 23rd. Those are just tentative dates that I'm putting out there to plan ahead.
No, it makes sense.
Anything
If I could,
Hmm?
I was going to say, if I could offer this as well, because you do have another ULURP meeting coming in as well, which will come after that meeting, you can actually dedicate some of that time if you wanted to have additional questions, or either the whole session you can dedicate to that, or a portion of the session in terms of follow-up questions. So you do have that already built into the schedule if you wanted to do some additional stuff. And I just offer that to the committee. It's an option.
Okay, you're talking about my next meeting would be on March 9th. That would have been my next meeting. And then public hearing would be on March the 18th.
Correct.
That's the goal.
If that schedule holds up. And you can always play with the 18th if you needed to.
Okay.
But you always have at least on March 9th, if you know that, depending on what kind of feedback you get from the first presentation, you can kind of coordinate your schedule to see how that works.
Okay, great. And that's all I have. If you, I know you have to leave, Fred. So anything that you would like to just say before you leave, or?
No, I mean, I just want to say that, listen, I wanted to say thank you to the chair and thank you to the committee, because you put in a lot of hours of work and research prior to this. And I think this is going to pay off in terms of we're going to have the kind of public process that this community deserves to have. We should have certain conversations. There are a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered. And this is going to put us in a position as a board where we can make an informed decision. I think at the end of the day, that's what we really want to make sure we can do. If anybody needs to, so I'll definitely be speaking with the chair, along with the other chairs. A number of other committees will also be working. So if you check the community board calendar, the dates for those meetings should also be available. So if you have a particular interest or a particular section that you would like to look into, whether it be housing, whether it be specifically about BVG, or whether it be about environmental protection and impacts, those committees will be meeting as well. So most likely be covered on their agendas. So you'll have an opportunity to weigh in on those occasions as well. And along those lines, the other committees are also working. So we do have a number of other hours or built-in slots that we can actually talk about a number of these items. But otherwise, again, I just want to thank everyone for your time, and you know, we've had some good, constructive conversations about this and come to a decision as a board.
Okay, let's see. Before I-
Professor Ngati's on the line.
Okay, well, hold on a second.
Mhm.
I'll just finish this, just wrap this up. I have, I think I have one question, and that's to you, Alicia, since you talked about the community. What would they be doing? Would they be sending in their, I mean, how would they get the information into the community board, or what would they be doing?
Well, I would hope that the community board, and I would ask Ms. Hilton to send out a mass email to the community stating that the developers are coming to on the 24th. And if you have any questions that you want specifically asked of them, please submit them by this date to the community board so it could be forwarded to Ms. Hilton and then to them. And of course, you know, we'll do our own outreach.
Okay.
And we'll also be asking the same thing. So that way, at least there'll be some community outreach. And so is that possible, Ms. Hilton? I see Ms. Hilton. I see you on the phone, Ms. Hilton.
Yeah, I was just doing a little troubleshooting behind the scene. Just give me one moment.
Okay. So I would assume that Ms. Hilton will be able to send out a mass email. And I would hope that it would be in the subject line because a lot of people don't pay attention to the emails that come every Friday. So if there could be a separate email, like pose questions for the 960 Franklin Avenue rezoning, and then inform the community that the hearing. And I hope that you also would send out an email to the community, letting the community know that they are coming, that the hearing, that they all will be coming.
I have to, yeah, well, I'll have to get in touch with Mia because I have to confirm it, and hopefully I'll.
Mia's right here. Mia, is that possible?
Yeah, I will work with her to confirm.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe if I created a Google questionnaire, Google form to kind of streamline the process and kind of organize the responses in the body of that email, I think that would just be more efficient for everyone.
Okay.
It
So
would make it easier to compile the questions if you did that.
Yeah.
But in case some people are not that Google savvy, like just could you make sure that there's still the option to submit it in another?
Yeah, and I'll put that in the body in the email as well. If they're unable to complete it in that format, they can simply send an email to BK09 with the question that they would like posed to the developer.
And could we do this as soon as possible? That way you give people enough time because we have such a short time now.
Definitely.
I'm gonna reach out tomorrow to the developer.
Yeah.
And then I will get right on it, you know.
I meant Miss Hilton sending out the notice, just letting everybody know that this hearing is going to happen and questions are being asked.
You mean the presentation?
Yeah, the presentation. Right. I'm sorry. The presentation.
Yeah. So right. She's gonna. I have to confirm it, and then as soon as I will definitely try to get the information to her as soon as I can. Hopefully tomorrow, if I get a yay or a nay.
Okay.
And if the
Right. As soon as I get the confirmation, then I'll start prepping the form so that can go out.
Okay, great.
And then just one other thing, Ms. Hilton, I was just asking that it be in the subject matter.
So I did 960 Franklin Avenue. Yeah, definitely. Not a problem.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I saw Mr. Benefit from BBG, so I'm assuming that they can also leverage their Fight for Sunlight to help spread the word and collect questions from their membership as well, once we get the confirmation on the presentation.
Yeah, well, they're part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Richard someplace in the corner.
He put his thumbs up, so I assume that means yes. We can't audibly hear you, Mr. Benny, but we assume the thumbs means yes.
That would be a yes.
Yes, thank you.
I didn't see thumbs, but okay, great. Okay, so we can move on. I'm sorry, you said we have a guest speaker here, right? Is he here?
Yes, Professor Ngati is here.
Okay.
Can I introduce him? Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead and introduce him. Make it quick too.
Well, as you guys know, there is Corey Johnson is creating a bill. He has a bill on the floor to do what he calls a comprehensive plan that will include every community board in New York City, where they would have to create, where the mayor's office will be creating a plan for the community boards for increased development. And there's a lot of parameters around it, and there's a lot of discussion, but this bill is supposed to be in front of the city council as the current council people are leaving and as the mayor is leaving. So there's a lot of controversy about it, and there's a lot of discussion about it. The city is going around to various community boards and doing their presentations. However, we here in our community, we tend to stay up on top of things. So we have a little foot ahead of the game. And so we asked Professor Angadi, who did an op-ed ad in City Limits in January on the bill. For people who may not know Professor Angadi, he's a well-known professor of Hunter College, a former, well, a doctor, PhD, but he could give you more of his credentials. But we all know him and love him in this community because he has been essential in educating us and letting us know about the ULURP process and you know, rezoning and development. And he's really an expert on comprehensive planning. He's really pushed for comprehensive planning and has tried for the last 4 decades, I think, and trying to get comprehensive planning into the community. But there's some problems with the bill. And so I want to introduce you to Professor Angadi, a very much well-loved and known person in our community. Thank you for coming, Professor.
Oh, thank you, Alicia, for that wonderful introduction. How much time do I have? About 10 minutes or so? 5-10 minutes?
You got at least 10 minutes.
Okay. Yes, I have worked a long time, for decades, as an advocate for comprehensive planning. And I worked for the city planning department. I taught urban planning at Hunter College, Columbia, Pratt, everywhere in the world. And I understand the value. What is comprehensive planning? It means looking at the whole, looking at the city as a whole, not just today, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What do we want to be? What do we want to have? What do we need as a city? New York City is the only major city in the United States that has never had a comprehensive answer to that question. A long-term look at where is the city going? What are our capital needs? What are our service needs? What are the inequalities within the city that have to be rectified as new development occurs, as problems arise, and so forth? So I've testified at many public hearings before the city council, in the mayor's charter revision hearings for comprehensive planning. But I added something to it, which I think is an essential companion to the proposal. It's called community planning. So comprehensive planning takes a look from the top and a look at the whole. But we are a city of 8 million people, 5 boroughs, 59 community districts, 59 community boards, and each one has their unique characteristics, problems, issues, needs, and one size does not fit all. And so community-based planning has been, for me, an essential part of the whole process. That's what's missing in the city council's proposal. It's all top down. There's no bottom up. The citywide planners will come up with a set of 3 alternative growth strategies. That's the other problem I have with this. It's all focused on where to put growth. Now, I'm not against growth. growth is fine, but what do you mean by growth? And where is the growth going to occur? How is it going to occur? Well, the city planners who put this together said, well, we're gonna come up with a strategy that allocates growth to every community board. Now, in principle, what's wrong with each community board having its own strategy for growth? But as you all know, as I know in my neighborhood, it's not only growth that we care about, it's preservation that we care about. It's the schools that we care about. It's traffic. It's everything that is part of the quality of our life. Everything that meets our needs or addresses our needs. So to only have a strategy that is focused on growth is not good enough. And to only have a strategy that's put together at the citywide level by the Office of Long-Term Planning, which is under the mayor's office. And the mayor's office needs to have its strategies, but we have 59 community boards, and each community board needs to have their. Let me just sort of finish with another really important part of the story for context. Community boards were created because there was no voice for communities in city planning decisions. 1977, the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, ULURP, was created. It didn't come out of the blue. It followed the civil rights movement, the demands by neighborhoods to have a voice in decision making. And in 1989, the city charter was again revised because many communities set out to do their own plans. Community-based planning didn't just start yesterday. It began over 50 years ago, and it started at the grassroots. It started in the environmental justice movements. It started in many community boards too, who decided they were going to go out and develop a strategy for their own communities because the city wasn't doing it, or the city was doing something they weren't satisfied with. So community-based planning has also come up from the grassroots, and it's needed because it fills a gap. We have a very large city, 8 million people, 59 community districts, very complex agencies that are all under the mayor. We have a very strong mayor system. So we also need the balance. We need to have some balance in power. And I have been, as long as I've advocated comprehensive planning, I've been an advocate that community boards have staff and have a planner on their staffs. And by the way, that was in the 1989 charter revision. Every community board should have a planner. But you know what the mayors have done is they've skirted that whole thing by saying, well, you can go to the city planning department and you'll find city planners and they'll answer any questions for you. That's not good enough. Every community board needs to have a planner. Every community board needs to be able to do its own plan. Does it have to be, does it need to be a plan that's entirely independent of the city's plan? Absolutely not. There needs to be planning at multiple levels, at the community board level and at the citywide level. How do you get the two to work together? You don't do it by having a comprehensive plan that starts at the top and in which community boards don't have a definitive, incisive role in preparing that plan, modifying that plan, and making sure that it meets their needs. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. But you know why the city council wants to do it this way? Because that's the easy way. That way, you start at the top, they come up with their plan, and then you stuff it down the throats of 59 community boards. And that's going to leave us right back to where we are today. An imbalanced system with not enough, and I guess I would just end with something I sort of hinted at before, that this is an equal rights question. It's a civil rights question. Just as the demand for community control of schools was a central demand of the 1970s, so was community boards. Community boards for all community districts throughout the city, and not just the boards who could afford to pay for studies and pay for a planner. So that's where my criticism comes from. And I have talked to my friends and former students who have been working on this proposal, because I think it's so important that the city get this right. But to do it the fast and easy way and pass a bill that leaves out one of the most important elements in doing planning, I don't think is right. So there's time to change it. There's time to get out and to make noise and to demand changes in the proposal. I am not in favor of just dropping the whole idea of comprehensive planning, but I am in favor of dropping it if it doesn't include community planning.
If you have some questions, I guess we need to, like, I can't see all the hands, so I guess they need to go in the chat. If you
Okay.
can.
You want me to?
Mia, you can help us out with the chat. But meanwhile.
Yes, I got you.
Okay. So if you could just put your questions in the chat. Ms. Barnes, I don't think she's not in the
Do you
chat.
want me to just go through the questions?
Hmm?
You want me to just go through the questions one by one?
Yeah, the communities just want to ask a question. I'm gonna let Ms. Barnes go first, but I don't think she goes into the chat. Or do you, Ms. Barnes? But go ahead.
No, I'm a senior and my eyes are going. I
know what you
I don't need to go into the chat. Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor, this master plan that was authored, it seems, by Corey Johnson, these 3 plans that, well, first of all, they, from what I understand, they're going to eliminate the community totally. One public hearing for the community, and now they even want to eliminate the community board. So to stick to my question, that is, what are these 3 plans that they have? Who authored them? And could you, in a summarize these 3 plans, that if no one picks one of these 3 plans, then the mayor gets to author the plan?
My understanding is there are 3 alternatives.
Right.
They're to present 3 alternatives. And they focus on growth, because they imply, but they explicitly say, one is an alternative with a high growth rate, one with a low growth rate, and something in the middle. And I interpret that as a trick. That's a trick, you know. So you present people with 2 extremes. The logical path, the mind goes right to the middle, of course, compromise. But what if the big question isn't growth? What if it isn't all that simple? What if your three plans are the wrong three alternatives? What if you exaggerated one of them and you underplayed the other? What if you didn't present them in an honest and direct way so that people could make up their minds independently? So that's why I say it could be a trick. I know I've taught planning students for a long time, and the first thing they do when they're doing their studio projects and everything is they try to trick you. And they present, they do the same thing, three alternatives, but the middle one seems like the compromise, therefore that's the best one. No, not good enough.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Is anybody else in the chat?
Yeah, I'm just trying to scroll up because a few came in very fast.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go in order that I'm reading up. How would you present an argument against the city council proposal? What would be a good strategy that would be a powerful resistance to the council? Is there a good chance we can delay this until November elections when everyone is term limited?
Now, whose question is that?
I believe that's coming from Ms. Pinkerton.
Okay.
Well, I think delaying the decision would be a good one. This is such an important thing. Let's give it time for a deep discussion. Let's have the mayoral candidates. Let's have the city council candidates express their views on how to do this. Let's not rush it through, but let's not drop it.
Okay.
Got it. I have a question in the chat from Nicola. What specific asks would you recommend for the community engagement in developing this plan? I am suspect of the community developing a plan that then sits on the shelf while DCP then implements the plan they already developed. Hold on. That they've already developed for the community.
Well, as some of you know, I wrote the book on community-based planning. And in 1979, in 1989, when the city charter was changed, that explicitly gave community boards the ability to do their own plans. And they're called 197A plans for section 197A of the city charter. I was among a small group of professional planners that worked with community boards to do their own plans and to do the first generation of officially approved 197A plans. The problem is nobody does them anymore for a very good reason. The city planning department files them away and says they're just plans. And so that gives you kind of a sense if the city planning department institutionally is behind this comprehensive plan reform, what their concept of planning is, top down, not bottom up. And yeah, so that's the problem. That's the problem.
Got it. Next question posed by Jamise Raphael. What have you seen in the fight between community voices demanding preservation and developers? Are many demands for preservation successful?
Well, that's a long story because preservation of what and for who? And is it just preservation of buildings? Or what about preservation of people's cultures and public spaces and so forth? And unfortunately, preservation is defined officially through the Landmarks Preservation Commission, which does tend to be historically on the side of building preservation. And rarely take a look at districts, although there are many preservation districts. But I'm among a small group of professionals that have always advocated for cultural landmarks. What about the people who didn't have beautiful brocaded buildings in their neighborhoods, but had, famous people who lived there, or people who became famous later? And there's so many wonderful cultural landmarks, churches that that don't have beautiful Gothic spires that qualify for the architect's preservation. Now, the other part of this question is, one of the things the city doesn't want to do is give anybody tools that would prevent things that are of value for the city as a whole from occurring in their neighborhood. Call it not in my backyard, or people who are exclusionary and so forth. That's one question. But in the interest of fighting exclusionary people who just say, leave me alone, we don't want anything, do you take away their power? Do you take away the power of people in neighborhoods and communities to have a voice, a real voice, a voice that matters? So unfortunately, at the top of the city planners, they only see it from that vantage point, and they don't see it from the vantage point of people in their communities, many of whom have good reasons to keep certain things out, because they threaten the quality of life. And we all have different definitions of the quality of life, of course, but that's part of the discussion that we need to have.
Okay, we've got to cut it a little short because we don't
I'm sorry.
go
Go
over
ahead.
time, but there's a couple of more people.
Yeah, I have two more in the chat. A question from Ms. Nichols. If there was a planner on every community board, how would they be found? How would the community know that the planner was not secretly answerable to some other interest?
Oh, you'd hire them. You'd pay their salaries.
Okay. Yeah, somebody else.
And I mean, community boards need to have bigger budgets. They need to have more staff. You realize the average community board is the size of a municipality in upstate New York that has a budget 5 times yours.
Right. So true. I have a question in the chat from Ms. Boyd, and I guess a statement and or question. Communities and residents all over New York are complaining, expressing concerns about climate change, water pollution, sea level rising, air pollution, reducing energy use and wasting energy use and waste, protecting public green space, etc. In your opinion, hold on. In your opinion,
Yeah.
Paige, you actually mentioned that comprehensive planning can actually undo and replace antiquated and unsustainable environmental policies that could address these concerns. Does this bill do that? And if not, what changes can be done could be done that it would?
The bill would create the possibility of addressing, questions of resilience, environmental justice, but not explicitly by itself. It's not enough. And one of the checks on it is greater participation by not only community boards, but civic organizations, activist groups, environmental groups, to weigh in on these big resource questions, environmental questions, and social justice questions as well. And that's why the other part of my alternative is this planning has to be an ongoing process, not a once every 10 years. You should be doing planning all the time at the citywide level and at the community level. It should be an ongoing process, and there should be a dialogue going on at every step of the way. The city in the United States that did this most thoroughly and first was Seattle, and that's what they did. They had concurrent plans going on at the community level and at the citywide level.
Gotcha. I just have, Chair, we have about 2 or 3 more questions in the chat. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll listen to it, but somebody has a hand raised. That Tom with his hand raised?
Yep.
Huh?
Oh, Tom, yeah, Mr.
I
Thomas.
don't think he could do chat, so I'm gonna let him
Understood.
go in there.
Ms. Boyd, is your hand back up, or that was from earlier?
Back up.
Okay, got it.
I
Thank you.
think other people, because I'm gonna, at 8:30, I'm done. Go ahead. Tom?
Hi. So my resume is pretty much the same as Tom's, and I've reached the same conclusions and come up against my students frequently in the past. I just like to comment on the pig in the poke aspect of this. Taking 3 alternative plans from a central agency and picking one is not a good idea. But there is also the issue of what comprehensive plan means and what piece of it do you want. I think we as a community board should not give away land use decisions and the nebulous thing called character of the neighborhood. You don't want to be picking a plan that somebody else decides. On the other hand, we have pretty much no interest in water and sewer master planning, little interest in transit planning, but the essence of what's important to us is what happens with our zoning, what happens with the character of the neighborhood, the notion of a 40-story tower and eliminating the utility of the Brooklyn Botanic Garden is within our purview, I think. So there are some parts of comprehensive planning that, okay, you do it. But there are other parts of comprehensive planning that we need to generate from ourselves and not select from somebody else's menu.
Okay, so that's a statement. Okay, who's next? I'm sorry, was that a statement, right? That was not really a question.
Well, the question is which issues do we want to carve out for ourselves?
No, I agree. I mean, there are a lot of things, and this is where a top-heavy city administration really, really can go off the rails. There are a lot of things that you know about your neighborhood that I don't, and that I know about my neighborhood that you don't. Okay, let's start with that understanding. And there are also a lot of things, and there are differences within our neighborhoods, but there are also differences within government, by the way. So, yeah.
Okay, you said we have 2 more questions?
Yeah, it's a few at this point. The next up is a question from Debbie Stoller. It says this plan was announced on the exact same day that many community groups held a protest in front of City Hall against rezoning, the way that they are done, rezonings the way they are done now. Communities are stating, hold on, oh no, my scroll, hold on. Sorry about that, hold on, guys. Eek. So, excuse me, against rezonings the way they are done now, communities are starting to have some success. Do you think that this specifically, hold on. Oh my God, I'm sorry. This is like scrolling, super scrolling.
Would it be easier
If
with
this was specifically designed to push community
I got it
resistance
now.
out of the way.
Thank you, Nicole.
Mhm.
Professor Gotti, did you get the last piece of that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Do you think that this was specifically designed to push community resistance out of the way and roll out the red carpet for wealthy developers?
Oh, okay.
Also, do you think this is really going to pass, referencing the bill?
Well, yeah, that's a good question because you have to put it in context. A couple of things have happened. There's been the constant push demanding that the city do more long-term planning. You know, our Hurricane Katrina, Sandy, woke up a lot of developers as well as neighborhood folks because large portions of our city, significant portions of our city, are being subject to flooding. And as sea level rises, we don't have a plan. We don't have a plan how to deal with this. So you have the long-term planning beginning to take place, but now I lost the train of my thought. What was the question again?
Do you think the bill is actually going to pass? And do you think the announcement of it was meant to crush community?
Okay, so yeah, from the top, there's this need to do some bigger master planning, long-term planning. There's a recognition. They're doing it very slowly, sluggishly. A lot of elected officials aren't taking it seriously. Some of the agencies aren't taking it seriously. But there's been a total emphasis forever on zoning as a substitute for planning. It's in the Department of City Planning, so you would expect that they would first do the planning and then do the zoning. No, all they do is zoning. And zoning for them is making changes in the zoning ordinance. Why? Because there are developers interested. They're buying up land in certain areas. They're interested in changing the zoning so that they can build more, make more money. And so the cries for comprehensive planning come as a reaction to that narrow zoning approach. But then something else happened. Bloomberg rezoned 40% of the land in the city. And he rezoned it with the view of developers. Give us all the prime land for the big developers. Excuse me. And people want to preserve their single family homes. We'll give them those areas. We won't touch some of those areas. We want the valuable land. And that was the theory behind the Bloomberg rezoning. So they upzoned in order to create development along major corridors in strategic locations. And then they downzoned to protect areas that big developers weren't really interested in. Okay. De Blasio comes into office and he says, well, the Bloomberg administration emphasized big real estate, mostly in neighborhoods that were already valuable, mostly in white neighborhoods. So we're going to start rezoning in areas that have been neglected. as if this was something that people were really demanding. Anyway, I'm going to do 15 rezonings as of today in the second term. He only got 6. Why? Every one of them was fought tooth and nail, and most of them in communities of color, most of them low-income communities, and most of them were targeted by speculators and developers. So he took a beating, and he's tried to sell those rezonings as a way to get affordable housing, and passed MIH, mandatory inclusionary housing, so that when zoning gets changed, you, the developer, now has to provide 20 to 30% affordable housing, so-called affordable housing.
We're gonna have to cut it. We're gonna have to
Okay.
can you wrap that up for me.
So yeah, and then the final chapter of the story is seeing the failure of that rezoning program. The new call is to rezone in white wealthy areas to prove that they can put affordable housing not just in communities of color, low-income communities, but in the neighborhoods that have resisted them forever. And that's where we are now. Gowanus, which includes part of Park Slope, and Soho. The Soho rezoning are both being pitched as bringing affordable housing into wealthy neighborhoods. And we'll see where that goes.
Okay. We're gonna have to, I would like to end this meeting. I got like 1 minute.
Ask a question that a motion be placed on the floor. So, because this, some type of motion directing the community board to take a position about this bill, because it makes no sense for us to have Professor Angadi here if we then don't come out with some kind of action plan. And maybe we should ask the city council to delay this bill, the signing of this bill, until more community input, more engagement happens with the community in order to truly formulate a comprehensive plan. Can I ask the ULURP committee to place a motion on the floor?
Right now, to be very honest with you, right now, I would really like to get a better understanding of this bill, because we need to review it.
Yeah, but Pat, I gave you the information. We talked about this last month. They're trying to pass the bill in April. We don't have a lot of time. We have the ULURP process. Come on, guys. We've given you all the information. Now we have the presenter here. I mean, if we don't act, what more do you need? I mean, it's a top down. You got 3 bills. It's not that difficult. You got 3 plans the mayor's gonna choose. You have to choose one of the plans. If you don't choose it, okay, the mayor chooses it.
What happens is even though we vote here, we have to bring it in front of the entire board.
So
let's not our decision.
Right. So let
entire board.
Right. So let a decision come from the ULURP, asking the board, after having reviewed the bill and having Professor Angadi do the presentation, that we put a motion on the floor that the board send a letter to the elected officials and the mayor and the city council that this bill should not be passed until it has community engagement in its formation.
So moved.
So you guys are board members. I'm asking the ULURP. I can't, because I'm not a member of the ULURP committee. I'm asking one of the members of the committee to place a motion on the floor.
So moved.
We have to place the motion.
You have to place the motion.
I placed the motion on the floor.
You ready to put it on and Nicola seconded?
No, she has to put it on the floor.
I can't hear.
So I put a motion on the floor to send a letter to our city council person, Lori Cumbo, and the city council that this bill should not be passed until there is more extensive community engagement incorporated into the bill and a thorough process for communicating how this master plan would work.
Seconded.
But this has to be, well, you didn't say it has to be brought forward to the entire board. We cannot, for a vote, we cannot say that it should be done. We have to bring it in front of the board for a vote.
Okay, so you passed,
Okay.
so you passed a motion for the community board to send a letter to everyone saying exactly what Nicola said. So it goes to,
But if Nicola already put the motion on the floor, so another member has to amend it to state that the voting should be done at full board.
okay.
I'll amend it. I will amend Nicola's motion to state that the letter should be sent after a decision from the full board to support the ULURP committee's recommendation at their next meeting.
I think I'm gonna take a vote because I can't tell who's here and who's not.
Unanimous vote?
I'm looking. Okay. I think, let me do a roll. Is my,
Do
Nicola,
you want me to call it?
yeah, we're gonna do the vote. Yeah, just call the names and we'll vote yay or nay. Hopefully we'll have a form. I'm not sure if we do.
Okay, so Warren Burke, Suki Chong,
Yes.
Nicola Cox,
Yes.
John Craver,
Yes.
Esteban Hiron,
Yes.
Nolan Levinson, yes. Patricia Moses,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Okay. So that's 7 yeses. And that's all of the members who are present right now. So,
I have a quorum.
yep.
Okay. So
Thank you.
thank you, Professor. I want to thank you for coming out and spending time with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
We definitely appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
And it was definitely, I really have to now follow up a little bit more and read myself as to what this bill is really all about. Because I know that they do, city planning, there's plans every year, but I'm not sure exactly what the difference is. And I think that it's something for us to really think about. And again, I want to thank all the community people. We have a lot of people here, like about 60 some odd people. And I want to thank you all for coming out. And we're going to get like really busy. There's so many things going on at once. So just bear with us and we're going to definitely try to keep up. And again, I couldn't do it without the community people and my committee members. And Nolan, definitely not without you, because you keep some excellent notes for us and I appreciate it. And I want to say good night to everybody and I'll see you at our next, wait, let me just say something. Our next scheduled meeting that for us is supposed to be on March the 9th. Right. But again, if I get a confirmation tomorrow, we're going to be meeting earlier and everybody will know if we can have that presentation on the 24th of February. Again, thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.